Hello, I'm John Tate, and I wanted to talk about Australia's energy policy and climate change and adapting to new energy. I can't remember what videos I've made in the past about this. This year I've been making videos about my opinions. And so a new bill's passed to cap prices on energy, and originally there were plans to compensate these energy companies and stuff so it doesn't inherit the other problems of price controls. Where with price controls, you end up with shortages because they don't even have enough money necessarily, like barring inflation increasing their expenses and everything else. Even, well, it's my first video of these opinions where I talk about laws being chaotic and the measurements they're being based on being pretty fleeting and not applying to a world that's really a complex world of a social system where most people to us are strangers. So you get these energy price caps and the subsidies, but they've thrown out the subsidies under the populist mandate that all they help is greedy energy companies, but that's far from true. And there's the fact that there's some investors in these energy companies that are counting on it to retire, and the mum and dad investor counting on it maybe to get enough money saved up to expand their business. I'm an investor with a business, and the dream is that the investments go up and I get to greatly expand my business after I sort out a car and some other things, and I'm doing all right. But if you're invested in energy, this thing's a lemon. But then there's the workers in the energy industry, and it gets through the Senate and not sent back to the House of Representatives even without changes to protect the workers. And what we've got here is a law that's on the verge of being a disaster, and the only thing left to stop this from being a disaster is that half of it's not even a real law. Because of the separation of powers in Australia, and actually to regulate the coal industry, state governments have to get behind it. There's an amusing thing there in Albanese's recent rhetoric about the energy sector losing, 3 or 4 terawatts of capacity under the preceding Liberal federal government that gets to decide pretty much nothing to do with coal mining except mining royalties and taxes and stuff like that, and the Treasurer being able to stop a foreign company being able to buy this and that. Anyway, to get back onto the subject, basically the preceding federal Liberal government had no say, and Alba has no say, and so this law is actually just a blatant case of virtue signalling, which is why the Senate could ignore these extremely bad problems with the law. But then you look at the press on this law, and it definitely, they just cover over the fact of the virtue signalling and stuff. Except maybe on Sky News, I've blocked that from everything in just Google News. I don't want any of their content. But yeah, like even in the Australian, I haven't really seen them go, this law on price caps is federally because of what state governments have to do and pass their own laws is, when it comes to coal energy, is entirely virtue signalling, and the federal government have little power there. And that actually includes like a carbon price and stuff too in these industries. The states have to play along there. If they play along the states and it gets through just as easily here in Victoria and in Queensland and New South Wales, where there is a big coal industry, well, we're going to have a lot of trouble. It's going to destroy a lot of people's potential for wage increases. It's going to destroy investments. We've got not just mum and dad investors, but all the banks in coal. I'd recommend getting an account with Bank Australia. You get to be a bank owner like me as a customer-owned bank, but they don't invest in coal because these kind of investments are going to turn into a lemon. And you've got your big home loans over 20 years and short-term deposits and shit, and to patch this whole problem up, they have liquid assets like stocks in energy and stuff. Bank Australia do all these other things a bank do, but they don't do the coal. And all of a sudden I've realised I have a real winner of a thing in my whole financial abilities and portfolio and shit. It's my bank account. I'm actually kind of hoping on Australian dollars, a currency I'm big on at the moment, because, the interest rates. But this whole energy policy is becoming a free-rolling disaster, and we are actually right now on the verge and on the brink of a major economic disruption to every investor in the country, even the people who have to take their deposits out of Bank Australia to do something else with their money because their investment in coals are fucked. And then there's the workers and all the middle economy, the services sector that do work for these workers, the waitresses, the guy at Macca's. Everyone could suffer in a hurry if they keep going on with this price cap lunacy and price controls. And I don't agree with the subsidies either. And I'll just end the video to say that the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, is a clown. All he talks about, oh, the economy, it's really bad for the economy. The economy is this really big thing, and he can't even define terms for the specific parts of the economy I'm talking about, which is why at the moment we really just have this one-party system, and all we have left is Labour, because everything else is philosophically bankrupt or downright extremely ignorant, like other right-wing choices in voting. And the Lib Dems, they haven't read any philosophy books either, and they'll be little different from the Liberals, except they diverge in public policy in that the Liberal and Labour at least actually have people who've studied public and policy that want to write Liberal and Labour laws. The Lib Dems can't do anything, because when it comes to lawmaking and actually writing a law, they have no resources of any kind whatsoever. And if you mention the Centre of Independent Studies, well, they do studies. I've never heard of a fucking law from the Centre of Independent Studies. Yeah, but you have heard of them from every university in Australia as people who've gone and majored in public policy. And at the moment, if there was a federal election now, I'd vote Albo myself, because the Liberals, they're extremely corrupt and they don't care about liberalism at all. At least Albanese cares about the little guy a bit, and even the bigger one, and the engineer and the energy investor. At least they usually do. But I think Albo does all this with a smirk and knows it's virtue signalling, just like when he was elected, his little opening speech, which is pretty much the same as Scott Morrison's one in every way, and then it's just a bunch of thank yous to his friends. And anyway, yeah, I'll just finish with that. This price cap thing is shit. It doesn't affect coal whatsoever yet, and if they do the same things in state legislation across Australia, the economy will be completely fucked, and we will be impoverished by it and significantly worse off for a decade or more, and will also cripple our own ability to do anything about climate change whatsoever, where there's only one right answer, which is nuclear energy. Anyway, that's all. This is John Tate.